Don't you think you're being a bit too radical? And that is on the government and its operations right now, because we all acknowledge that these conversations have been going on for some time. And we knew very well, or rather too well, that it's going to hit home sooner or later. I remember there are many other politicians who kept on telling the government, you had better not, raise the prices as at now, because we know rather too well that, again, we had already imported fuel, and therefore there's fuel in the country, and therefore it must be sold at the prices that it stood at. But finally, we are here. And the government has gone ahead to adjust, even the taxes, perhaps, in a bid to cushion mwananchi. How much more do you want us to stretch? Are you saying that we have, a government that is not real with its citizens? And like Wakile says, they began by telling us, tighten your belts. We are going to tax more. We are going to, price more. This in a bid to make sure that we get our country back to stability, because they inherited, apparently, a broke government.
Linda, I hope now my mic is working.
It should be working. It's
we understand that there is a crisis. We understand there is an international crisis. But we are asking ourselves very simple questions. If you look at the price of fuel, in Kenya, you have 8% fuel levy. You have 16%, which they've now reduced to 13%. So 8 plus 3, you're talking about taxation of around 21%. Now, Makiu, and I raised this and I want to raise it again because maybe my mic was not on. Uganda, they don't have a port. Uganda uses our port. Rwanda, the farthest end, also uses our port to bring in fuel. So it comes into Mombasa, it is pumped all the way to, either it's carried through the lorries or the pipeline. Now, explain to me, just like a normal class 8 student, that in Uganda, they are selling fuel at 189. That is around nearly 18 shillings cheaper than Kenya. Yet the fuel lands
Kenya first before it goes there.
So what we are saying, we know that there is a crisis, but we are saying, can we try and cushion the common man?
Cushioning is what we're talking about, and we're asking, how capable is government to sustain this cushioning?
By the way, when William came in, he introduced the 16% VAT. The first thing you do first, so that we can try and cushion our people, scrap off the VAT. Keep the fuel levy first, and see how you can how the crisis is continuing. Because let me tell you, it is going to be so expensive. The cost of goods will go up, the cost of food will go up, the cost of transport will go up, the cost of virtually everything, your power bills, and the power determines everything, be it manufacturing, your bread, your soda, your virtually everything. A boda guy on the street, the ones you send for delivery, it will be so expensive. So we are saying, we understand that there is a crisis globally. But how do we sit down and cushion the common man for the time being? Wakili is arguing that let's continue the taxes as we try and see what we can do. I'm arguing, why don't we remove the 16% first? Then we see how it moves. If the crisis prolongs, there is that discussion with the common man. And you say, look here, we've tried to cushion you. Let's introduce VAT of maybe 5% as we proceed.
Okay.
Now, I want to come back to the issue of the fuel lies.
Right.
Even the guys who resigned, I can tell you for a fact they never did anything wrong.
Okay.
The only wrong thing they did was to order fuel away from the G2G. G2G is a cartel.
So you want to tell me that these people knew that this is a cartel activity and therefore they decided to go against what had been stipulated?
I will explain to you.
Okay.
And the fuel that you had the government saying that had higher percentage of, these are all lies. That fuel had already been pumped into the pipeline. That oil had already been sold to OMCs. And that fuel is what we are buying now. Mm-hmm.
That one that is high in sulfur.
The one that they're saying is high in sulfur.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That oil, that fuel was actually sold by Aramco. Aramco is a company that actually sells fuel to G2G, the G2G arrangement. The G2G arrangement is a monopoly, is a cartel. It is a few individuals who determines who gets in oil and sells this to the OMCs. And you can see the lies came out very clearly yesterday in Parliament, where the minister says one thing and the acting MD of Kenya Pipeline says another. Right. So that fuel that came in that they were saying that is high in sulfur, I don't know, all those things, it is already being sold to Kenyans. So again, we need to relook at this G2G because it is a monopoly. And this fuel that these guys are being hounded away from office is the one that is actually now salvaging Kenyans.
At this point?
At this particular time.
But at the expense of because you see, we cannot be talking about cheaper and fuel that is cautioning Kenyans, and we also acknowledge that it is not up to standard.
And who said? Who has determined that it's not up to standard?
But why are we having this back and forth if it is up to standard?
You know, the problem with this oil, with this fuel, it is that it was procured away from G2G arrangement.
That is the whole...
That is the whole... The guy who supplies G2G is Aramco. The guy who sold this oil, this fuel, is Aramco.
I want to counter or say something different, but I see Wakili smiling. Perhaps he has a different view to that. But even that, we have, Josephat Kamanya. I'd love to hear his view on this. And, he would even tell us how he's found his way here into the office. Kama me panda matatu na prices panda.